Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I will be discussing foreign key and primary key. So we are first of all going to start with primary key. So I just want to make this video more explanatory as possible for everyone to understand it. Alright, so I have a couple of notes here, just few jottings here to start off with. So what is a primary key? So we see that a primary key is a unique identifier for each record or row in a database table. It is a column or a combination of columns that uniquely identifies each row in a database, in the table, sorry. The primary key enforces the uniqueness constraint, meaning that no two rows in the table can have the same primary key value. Alright. So I have a table here, employee table. So let this represent the details of employees. So here we can see their ID. They have staff ID, and here they have the name, they have their email, phone number, position, and then the dates their records were created. Okay. So here we want to look at how can we be able to identify, because this is exactly what primary key helps us to do. How can we be able to identify each user here or each staff? How can we? Because if we take a look at this table, we discover that this guy here, number 3, has the same name with this guy. So you can see his name is Martin here, his name is Martins. And how can we be able to identify who is who? This is what primary key helps us to do. So the primary key is a column. This is a column. It's a column or a field or group or what is rightly say, or a combination of columns that uniquely identify each user, and it enforces the uniqueness constraint. Now, what this means is we are not going to have duplicate data in this field. We are not going to have 1 and 1. So if we have 1 and 1, this is very wrong. Then this is not a primary key. This is not unique. It will still be very difficult for us to know, to identify anyone. So in order to be able to identify who is who, we enforce this primary key constraint. So what the primary key does is a column. For instance, here this staff ID is serving as a primary key. It's not going to allow duplicate record in this column. We're not going to have 1 and 1 here. No, we're only going to have 1, 2. We can have 1, 10, as long as 10 does not exist anywhere in this field. So 10 is going to be accepted. All right. So with this, we can be able to identify who is who. So we know that this guy has a primary key of 5. So with 5, we can be able to know, okay, this guy, he's number 5. Okay, and then we can know, hey, this guy is 5, so this guy is 3. So you can see. So this helps us. The primary key helps us to identify who is who in this record, in this data, in this table. So we have this record. We also have this record. We also have this record. So it's a unique identifier. It helps us to identify, records in the database, and then it doesn't keep duplicate record. Okay, it can also be referred to as a local key. So is it that when you hear primary key or local key, they are same. So let's jump to our database to see how we can create primary key in SQL. So here I'm using my SQL database, and I'm going to go straight to SQL, and I'm going to run the create database query. So I'm going to say create database right here, and I'm going to call this training DB. all right, and I'm going to run this. So having run this, you can see right here my database is created with no table, and also still want to use SQL to create the table. So here I'm going to say create table, and the table I'm going to create is I'm going to call it employee. Let it be employees table, and then in this employees table we are simply going to use what we have here. I'm going to use what we have here to create a table. So we have staff ID, name, email, phone, position, and created that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 fields. So let me jump back to my SQL. So inside the curly braces, I'm going to start with staff ID, So I'm gonna staff ID, and it's gonna be int data type with length of 11. I'm gonna call the primary key keyword. So this tells SQL that this is a primary key. So this is really how you define primary key. So with this, database knows that okay, this is a primary key. All right, and then we're gonna call the auto increment. We want it to increment from 1 to 3. Then we're gonna have name. Name is gonna be a voucher. It's gonna be a voucher of length 255. And what else do we have there? We have name. We have email, phone number, position. All right. So we have email, we have phone number, we have position, and then we have created at. Okay, so these are the fields we have. So the email is going to be the same as voucher, so I'm simply going to copy this, paste it here. The phone number is going to be the same, copy and paste it here. And for the position, let's just take a voucher 2. But here for the dates, it's gonna, for the creator, there's gonna be a date time. And I'm gonna give it a current. I'm gonna give it a default value of current timestamp. It's gonna be a current timestamp. So let's add comma here, and comma here. Okay, so with this, this is the name of the field, which is staff ID, and then this is the data type. So here I want it to be an int of length 11, and here we calls the primary key constraint. We want this to be a primary key. I want it to auto increment. So with this, we are able to define a primary key. So what this is what tells database that this column is a primary key. So here we have a name, a voucher, which is also a text or a string. The same thing here, and then here we have date time. So we want it to be date and time, and then we want a default value of current timestamp. Okay, so with this, we've been able to define a primary key constraint. So we've created a primary key. All right, so let's go and run this query. So when we run it, you see it runs successfully. And then here we have, you can see the employees table. When we open the columns, you see we have all the columns right here. Okay, so let's jump back to a foreign key. What is a foreign key? So a foreign key is a key is a column or a set of columns in a table that establishes a link or relationship between two tables. Now, first of all start with link or relationship. All right. So here in the primary key in the employee table, we see this is an employee of the records of employees, the CEO, the administrator, secretary, manager, another admin. We can have different admins in a company or in an establishment. So right here, what if we want to store the name, or sorry, the address of. So let's say we want to store the address of all the employees, and we do not want to have them in this table. So we want to have it in another table. So here we've created an address table where we're going to store all the addresses of the employees. Okay, so the question is, how do we know who owns this address? So the foreign key helps us to link or establish a relationship. So we're going to link the employee table to the address table. So the only way we can do that is by importing the staff ID to the address ID. This is how we're going to link it. All right, so we know that each primary key here belongs to an employee here. So there's no two employees that has the same primary key. So we know with this we can uniquely identify the employees. So what we're simply going to do is to import this staff ID to the address table. So what this means is, if we have a record here that includes the primary key of an employee, then that records belongs to the employee. I mean, this is self-explanatory. So it's just like an extension. So we are extending this table, this employee table, we're extending it to the address table. So the only way we can do this is, all right, we have all of these and then we have the address. So how do we know who owns this? The simple way we're going to do that is by moving or exporting, or having, we can say export, or having this field in the address table. So with this, we know, so whenever we are fetching information from the address, and then we're going to fetch based on this primary key. And because this primary key here, the primary key here in this table is a primary key to the employee table, is also a local key to the employee table. But because it exists in another table, it becomes a foreign key. So this just like when you are an American and then you move over to Africa, okay? I mean, if you're an African and you're related to America, or you're an American and you're related to Africa, so when you see a Nigerian who is in China, he is a foreigner in China, okay? He is a foreigner in China. So, or you see a Chinese in Congo, he is a foreigner in Congo. So that is the idea. Because this key, this primary key here, exists in a foreign table, then it becomes a foreign ID. Okay, so that's what we say here. I'll call him that assembly. So if you go down and say it represents a reference to the primary key of another table. So this is here we are not creating a new key here. We are simply referencing these keys. All right, so these keys here are the same with here. So this key, this staff ID in the address table is referencing the staff ID in the employee table. So this is how relationships are being formed. So with this we can know. So here we have this guy, with ID 1. So we want to check which address is he. So we have to go look for this. We look up for this one, so we know this is his address. All right, so this is just something of a foreign key. So I can say foreign key is a primary key of another table existing in another table. Primary key of a table, it's primary key of a table existing in another table, so it becomes a foreign key to this. All right, so let's go to SQL, my database, and how can we be able to establish this, this foreign key stuff. So I'm going to go over to this. Let me check out. Okay, so here we have the address ID, street ID, and mind you, this address ID is a primary key. All right, this is a primary key. So with the primary key, we can be able to to identify each of the records. All right, so so here we have the primary address ID. I'm gonna use the same. Where is my database? Let me go over to the database and let's get started. Okay, so in the database, I'm going to open my query. So I want to create a table here, and then the table is going to be address. It's going to be address. So here it's going to be address ID. Here we're going to have, where is my here? Okay, we're going to have street, city, state, country. We're going to have streets. Streets, city, states. We're gonna have country. We're gonna have created at, and then the last one we're going to have is the staff ID, and then the staff ID is gonna be an int. All right, it's gonna be an int. So to establish the foreign key, we're going to call the foreign key constraint. So we're going to say foreign, we're going to call foreign key, and we're going to say references it's going to reference a table and then the ID in that table. All right, so this is how I think I am not spelling this correctly. Foreign key. All right, so in establishing a foreign key, what we are simply going to do is we're going to identify here, we're going to pass the ID. All right, so here sorry, so here we want to, what we're going to pass into these parentheses is a column in the address table that we want to identify as foreign key. So here in this case we have the staff ID, so we're going to copy the staff ID and place it inside here, and then we're going to reference a table. So which table are we referencing? We are referencing the what is that? We're referencing the employees table. Okay, so here we're going to use employees, and then with employees table, then what's the primary key in the employees table? All right, the primary key in the employees table is what we're going to pass here. And let's go to the employees table columns. So in the employee we have the staff ID as a primary key, so we're going to pass the staff ID as the primary key here. So with this we've been able to establish foreign key. So you write the keyword foreign key, then you pass the ID of the current table. So the current table is the address table, so I'm passing this column. I want this column to be the staff ID, to be the foreign key, and then I want to reference the table, employees table, and then the primary key in the employees table is what I will pass in right here. Okay, so having done this, I can simply go and click on create. So you can see that my table is created. So I have these two tables created. So this is simply how you're going to form. So here in my SQL, if you want to check the relationship between tables, you can, for instance, the address, I want to check on the address, so I will select the address table. I'll go to structure, and then from structure you go to relationship view. This is where you view the relationship. So from here you can see that the address table is related to the employees table, and we have the staff ID. So the staff ID in address table is related to the staff, is referencing or related to the staff ID in the employees table. All right guys, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So please share this video, click on the notification bell so you get more updates when we post more videos.